All right, everybody, here's a small video for Monday's lesson on finding real or imaginary roots by factoring. I'm working on page 301. I'm looking at the chunk of questions from 10 to 24 specifically, and I'm going to choose two of them for this video to keep things kind of brief. The first one I'm going to pick is the simplest question that I see on here. Maybe I'll choose three. I'm going to choose question number 10 as a good intro. Question number 10 is x cubed plus 64 equals 0. The first thing that I observe about this question is that it's the sum of two cubes. So I'm going to go ahead and use the rules for sums of two cubes. I'm going to put an x plus 4. I'm just going to follow my formula. I'm going to square the first one. I'm going to square the second one. I'm going to add my plus sign that's always there. And I'm going to choose the sign that's opposite of my first sign. Now, I'm going to finish this off by multiplying my x and my 4. That gives me 4x. So now I have this thing factored, right? All right, great. So I'm going to use that concept of AB equals 0 so that I can set this thing equal to 0 and try to solve. So I'm going to go ahead and say if x plus 4 equals 0, then x equals negative 4. So I have one answer. All right, and I'm expecting three answers, so I have one of them. Now let's see what else I can do. This guy, if I could factor this, I would sure try. My gut reaction is that this is not going to factor. So I'm going to end up using, I'm not going to worry about it, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. I'm going to do my discriminant first, just because I'm going to do it anyway. Actually, I'm just going to do the whole thing. So x equals negative b, so negative 4, so 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, so 2 times 1. This looks like it's going to be imaginary. That's not a big surprise. So 4 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, this is 16 minus 64 over 2. So it's going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, negative 40, what's that going to be? 64, 54, 44, 45, 47, 48. So negative 48. Over 2. All right, I'm going to work my way down. I'm going to simplify this. So 4 plus or minus I roots of 48 over 2. Now I'm going to work on the 48. So the 48 is the same as kind of an offshoot here for those who need it. The 48, if we broke this down, is 4 and 12. This is 4 and 3. And I'm going to stop there because I have a pair of 4s. So that's going to help us break this down. So here we go. I have 4 plus or minus the square root of, I, and then this is going to be 4 roots of 3, right? That's how this works. The pair is the number that comes out here over 2. So now let's simplify. I'm going to do 4 over 2 plus or minus 4i roots of 3 over 2. I'm just writing it as two separate pieces, the real part on the left and the imaginary part on the right. And now we'll finish this off by simplifying plus or minus 2i roots of 3. So here's what we observe. After all of this work, I have one of my answers here and my other two answers, with the one with the plus and the one with the minus there. And I know that I'm not really zoomed in the way that you might prefer, but that's the concept, right? That's start to finish, factor, quadratic formula, and solve. Now, when I think of the other two questions I was planning on working with you on, the next one that I look at, I'm still on that same textbook page. I'm looking at question number 14. Question number 14, I'm going to get you started, and then I'm not going to take you the whole way through it. X to the third plus 2x squared plus 5x plus 10 equals 0. The thing that I observe here right off the bat is that I have 4 terms, and none of them have a GCF. So I'm going to think about factoring by grouping. That means I'm going to look at the first cluster and look for things that are in common. I'm going to look at the second cluster and look for things that are in common. Looks like there's a 5 there. And if all goes well, I'm going to end up with the same binomial on the inside. And thank goodness that I do have that. So I'm going to bring my x squared plus 5 together. And I'm going to bring my binomial x plus 2 down. And now I'm going to go ahead and use that same concept, the AB equals 0 concept. For this one, it's a relatively quick solve, so let's go ahead and do it. X squared plus 5 equals 0. or x plus 2 equals 0. All right, so we'll do x squared is negative 5. That's a little bit messy. We're going to solve that just in a moment. All right, so I have one of my answers. X is negative 2. And on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and do square roots to both sides. I have x equals plus or minus. There's my other two answers. I roots of 5, and I'm done. I'm going to box that twice just to remind myself that those are my two answers. So that's kind of the procedure there. Factor by grouping. And then I said I was going to do a third question. I think we should. I'm going to look at a question like number... Where's one with a 4 in it? There we go. Question number 20. All right, question number 20, last one for this video for anyone watching or needing it. X squared minus 10x squared is negative 9. The first thing that I notice is that this thing needs to move over here, so they're all together. So x squared minus 10x squared. I'm imagining I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So plus 9 equals 0. Now I can start factoring. Oop, I made a mistake. This is a 4. Now, I see that this is factorable, right? I see like a factor pair of 9 and 1, and 9 plus 1 equals 10. So I'm in pretty good shape here. I think I'm going to be able to factor this thing out. But the x to the fourth is kind of funky. So I think about x to the fourth as a pair of x squareds. And then I think about my 9 and 1, and then minus and minus equals 0. And I'm going to, before I do anything, right, this is my method, so I'm going to double check x to the fourth plus 9. So I've got my x to the fourth and my plus 9, so that part's dialed in. Now I'm going to do my negative 1x squared, and negative 9x squared becomes negative 10x squared. So I know I've done it correctly. I always personally do that as a double check before I keep moving. And now I'm using my AB equals 0 technique again. Third time in a row, same technique. So we set these equal to 0. X squared minus 9 equals 0. So x squared equals 9. And we take the square root and we get x is plus or minus 3, right? There's two answers right there. And on the other side, I have x squared minus 1 equals 0. So x squared equals 1, square root. So x equals plus or minus 1. And there are my other two answers. So don't let that exponent of 4 throw you off. Those are 3 different examples to get you through Monday on page 301.